Hello and welcome to the Run Testers. My name's Nick, and in this video I'm going to be comparing the Hoka Clifton 9 and the Hoka Skyflow. So the Clifton 9 and the Skyflow are both daily trainers within the Hoka range. The Clifton is almost the classic quintessential Hoka. It's been around for a long time, so it's on the 9th version. There's loads of colorways available. Skyflow is a new shoe this year that I think more or less comes in and occupies the same space as the Clifton, but offers a slightly more premium experience. It's got a slightly higher price tag, and you've got a different midsole foam used with the Skyflow. But both shoes are designed really for cranking out a lot of daily training as comfortable, fairly versatile options. The Clifton costs £130 or $145. Whereas the Skyflow is £150 or $160. Skyflow is actually the heavier shoe. It's 285 grams or 10 ounces in a UK size 9, whereas the Clifton is 262 grams or 9.2 ounces in the same size. They both have a 5mm drop. The Skyflow has the slightly higher stack height. It's 40mm at the heel, 35 at the forefoot in the men's shoe, and then it's 38 at the heel, 33 at the forefoot in the women's shoe. When we first tested the Clifton, the stack height was given as a fair bit lower than that, but actually on the info I have now with the latest tech sheets that came out with the Skyflow, it's listed as 38 at the heel and 33 at the forefoot in the men's shoe, and then 37 and 32 for the women's shoe, which looks about right. Like, it's a pretty high stack shoe and it feels comparably high to the Skyflow, but the Skyflow is that little bit higher. With the Skyflow's design, you've got a Creel Jacquard upper, you've got a supercritical EVA midsole. This is very much the key difference between the two shoes. Instead of the compression-moulded EVA foam used on the Clifton that had been used on loads of Hoka shoes for a long time, you've got a supercritical EVA foam, which is similar to the materials used on shoes like the Mac line. You've got the usual Hoka rocker and then a rubber outsole with pretty good coverage there, a little bit of exposed foam and a bit of a recess in the middle of the shoe there to try and save some weight, but it's a thick layer of durable rubber in all the key areas. With the Clifton, you've got an engineered mesh upper, pretty padded on the tongue and collar. They've both got a similar level of padding in those areas, I'd say, and both of them have fairly significant internal heel counters. Like I say, you've got that compression-moulded EVA midsole on the Clifton. You've got the rocker as well, and you've got a rubber outsole. Pretty comparable in terms of everything except for that midsole, I would say. When it comes to the fit of the two shoes, obviously you've got the same size here, UK 9, a US 9.5, and it's got a very good fit. In general, I get on really, really well with the fit of Hoka shoes, so I'll say that now. So I have a pretty narrow foot. I have a fussy Achilles that gets annoyed by certain heel designs, but never happens with Hoka shoes, and in general, their shoes fit me really well. I'm also a fairly small UK 9, so the fact this is a US 9.5 instead of a US 10 like it is in some brands, works very well for me. So I have no concerns at all about the fit. They are reasonably narrow shoes. That often happens with Hoka, but there are wide sizes available for both of these shoes. You've got a fairly padded tongue, but nothing that I found oppressive at all when running in the shoes in hotter conditions. In general, the fit just works really well for me. It's comfortable, but not overbearing in any way, and I've got the right amount of room around the toe box, good hold around the heel and midfoot. So it comes to the run test, you have got two shoes here that have really a lot more similarities than they do differences. They both fit in the kind of classic Hoka mold with that 5mm drop, the rocker, similar outsoles, uppers, everything like that. And the ride is quite similar as well, but you have got this supercritical foam in the midsole of the Skyflow, and you have a price increase to reflect that. So you've got a slightly better midsole material here, and the question is, how much more does that deliver in terms of ride experience and ride feel, and does it make it worth the extra money you have to pay compared to the Clifton? So I've done a lot of running in both shoes, and I've done a run in them at the same time. I think you do notice the difference in the ride feel between the two shoes. I think the Clifton actually feels a little bit softer at the heel with that compression molded EVA. You get a nice roll through from both shoes, and then you have, I think, a bit more of a responsive toe off with the Skyflow. Like, both are very comfortable, both very cushioned, but you've just got that little bit more pop off the toes when running in the Skyflow. And it's not to say that neither of these are incredibly versatile shoes, but they both kind of sit in that category of daily trainers that are probably more comfort first, but can do a little bit of everything. And I think because of the slightly poppier feel you have with the Skyflow, you do get a little bit more off the toes, which makes it a little bit more suitable, I think, for long runs, like at any pace. I think it just, you hold your form a little bit better in a shoe like this over long runs, and then it has a little bit more when it comes to faster runs as well. Though it is a little bit heavier than the Clifton, so that's something to take into account. But I found when I was running in both shoes at the same time, I just got a little bit more softness from the Clifton, and then a little bit less life out of the toes in terms of how I felt I was being pushed along off the toes with the shoe. Just that little bit more pop with the Skyflow. Actually feels a little bit similar to the difference between the Nike Pegasus 41 and the Nike Pegasus Plus. We've got similar geometries of both shoes, but a better foam in the Pegasus Plus that gives you that little bit more oomph. However, with the Nikes, it's more of a clear difference because the Pegasus Plus is lighter, nimbler, feels a lot faster, as well as being more responsive, whereas the Skyflow actually feels quite a lot like the Clifton. You have got a slightly nicer foam there, but you've also got a slightly heavier shoe, so I wouldn't necessarily feel like it's as a clear difference and clearly worth an upgrade as it was with the two Nike shoes. But I did find when I was running in the Skyflow Skyflow, like anything like towards an hour, over an hour. I did find the ride you get from that supercritical foam a little better for me, and I do a lot of progression runs, so kind of easy to steady pace runs, that kind of thing. And again, the Skyflow just feels better for those, even though it is a bit heavier, just because the foam just gives you that little bit more back, and it's the kind of ride feel I like. Now, if you're looking for more of a softer feel, especially at the heel, I think you get that a bit more with the Clifton. Like, it does feel like still quite nimble and lightweight, because it is a pretty lightweight shoe for the cushioning you have here, but it doesn't necessarily give you a lot off the toes, and that's what I think lets it down a bit for faster running in general, and also compared to the Skyflow. Actually, when I was testing both the shoes for the original reviews, they both came at a really good time for me, because when I was first testing the Clifton, I was doing a lot of fairly short runs. I was, I think, just after a big marathon block, and I was just getting back into training again, running regularly, but not doing anything too long. And I was testing the Skyflow, I was more into the marathon training mode, where like every run I go out for will probably be 13 to 15 kilometers, and I just prefer the feel of the shoe for that kind of thing. Whereas those nippier runs, those shorter runs, you pick up the pace a little bit, you maybe do some fun intervals. The Clifton works really well for those, and I think it actually has that nice soft feel at the heel, which some people might prefer to the Skyflow. But in terms of grinding out a lot of miles and doing the hard mileage and marathon training, is where the Skyflow, I think, was a notable upgrade for me. So it comes to the verdict, like, it's a difference when you look at the two shoes. Is the list price difference, so that's £20 or $15. I prefer the Skyflow. I'd probably pay the extra for it, because I think this foam holds up better on long runs. I think it might hold up better over the lifespan of the shoe as well, just because I do think it's a really good foam. I've loved using it on shoes like the Mac, and I think Hoka, the geometry of the shoes in tandem with that foam, just makes this a really nice daily trainer that you don't really notice on the foot very much. It can help you cruise along at a variety of paces, and it feels very consistent and holds its responsiveness throughout runs. So I do think it's worth that little upgrade, especially if you are someone who's doing more mileage, marathon training, that kind of thing. That said, the Clifton's a bit older and it is cheaper, it's a little bit lighter, and I think it's the kind of shoe that will be popping up in sales a lot, especially as we enter things like the Black Friday period. And it's certainly a shoe that has a lot of merits, because as I mentioned in the run test, there are definitely more similarities between these shoes than differences. And I think if you're someone who's mostly going out for shorter runs, you just want a comfortable shoe, then the Clifton will do that really well. And if you can spot it at a really big discount, then I'd probably go for the cheaper shoe, because I like the Skyflow, but I like the Clifton. I'm happy using the Clifton for the same kind of runs. It's just the Skyflow, I think, gives you that little bit more for longer runs, but whether it's worth a big upgrade in price, I wouldn't be so sure. Only other thing I'd say, if you are a new runner or a heavier runner, I think the more resilient foam you get from the Skyflow might work a little bit better in terms of durability and protection over runs than the slightly softer feel of the Hoka. It might press down a little bit more, this foam, and I think you might get a slightly more consistent feeling over the course of the life of the shoe, maybe with the Skyflow. So it might be a slightly better option with that foam in there. But like I said, overall, the shoes have that similar Hoka feel. They're both really good shoes. I prefer the Skyflow. I do think the foam is an upgrade, but whether it's worth the upgrade in price will depend on the price at the time and probably what you're going to use the shoes for. That's a comparison of the Hoka Clifton 9 and the Hoka Skyflow. Let us know what you think in the comments below. Please do like and subscribe, ring the little bell, and we will see you next time on the channel.